Hello, and welcome to all the truth seekers that have joined us today. I'm glad that you've decided to join the online community and hope that you're ready to inhale some provocative insights that will inspire and change the way you do business. My name is Mark McKelsey, and I lead the people and the projects that bring you insights, shopper trends, and next practices from Global Market Development Center. For the next hour, this Infocast will make your lunch hour profitable by demonstrating just how the curiosity and the power of the consumer must be at the center of your strategy. In other words, the way you've done things in the past is not the way your future success will happen. Retailers and brands more than ever, especially during the crisis, must be adaptive and in constant flux in order to connect with evolving populations. So, how you respond to this session is important. Without further ado, let's jump into it. I'm coming to you live from Colorado Springs and have Dan from WD Partners joining us today from Columbus, Ohio. Today's Infocast is about how store design, experience, and new layout is being impacted by the coronavirus pandemic and how industries are suddenly faced with reimagining new retail social spaces going forward. It was only a few weeks ago that we as consumers had a hard time getting into the store, finding a store that was open, and if we did make it in and make it past the crowds, we were left empty-handed because the paper goods, the fresh meat, and the office supplies we were seeking were all sold out. And only a matter of 2 weeks later, now that we're in April, we can now look behind and see the first and second wave of shoppers that have come and gone. I was on a webinar yesterday, and the stats that were coming out were from very reputable panelists, said that traffic in the US is now down nearly 50% from what it was in March. In the UK alone, that number is down nearly 75%. Brick and mortar needs to come to grips that the waves of consumers have gone from panic to pantry 1.0, pantry 2.0, and now we're contemplating what the future holds for them, as many consumers have overspent on things they didn't actually need and are still struggling to get the bare essentials delivered to their door within 30 days. What is most interesting about the COVID crisis is how the pendulum has swung back and forth very quickly and left many crucial food, drug, and mass retailers out of stock while fighting to keep their employees safe. The shift to online, in addition, has been massive to say the least. Nielsen predicts that up to 35% of the customers who are now using their phone or desktop to order goods are brand new and using it for the first time. And for those who already have a strong previous desire and propensity to use omnichannel, retailers are wondering if those people will ever come back into the store. There's no doubt that this disruption that we've seen in the country and the globe in general as a result of the virus leaves technology and optimizing a digital experience for shoppers a wide open playground of opportunity. Technology in the past decade has definitely grown in popularity within brick and mortar stores, but today it's top of mind inside every single one of those retail boardrooms. And remember, it's not just about technology, but also an entirely new and reimagined store layout in general, considering all of the unknown new traffic patterns that will be emerging following the COVID crisis as it relates to distancing, safe engagement, and a push for touchless purchasing. Technology, of course, will play a huge role in making that happen, but many consumers still do not fully trust that digital world. As more and more consumers become hyper, hygiene conscious consumers, and some becoming outright germaphobes, what is on everyone's mind, considering the new normal, is to prevent, at all costs, a relapse of another outbreak. The future of retail design is bright, chock full of unknown, but it's also blue ocean thinking in regards to what and where the retail experience is going to be like once the dust has settled. So with that said, Dan, I'm glad you're here. Would you tell us more about what our viewers can learn about today?
Thank you very much, Mark. Really appreciate it. So today we're going to talk about a new day, a new retail experience. We've certainly gone through a lot with the COVID-19 disaster that we have currently going on. And as we talk about our perspectives, we have to recognize this is a unique time. And there is still a lot that we have to learn. There's still a lot that we're going to see as this whole crisis unfolds. And I'm not going to tell you that we have all the answers. We have a lot of opinions and perspectives that's based on our experience. And I also want everybody to know that we're not talking about the immediate steps of what's going to happen next week or next month. We're talking about the things that are going to have a longer term impact on the way retail is done in general, as well as specifically the way retail is being done in the grocery environment. For those of you who are not familiar with WD Partners, we are a customer experience innovation firm, and our services represent really a broad range of services on the way, all the way through from customer insights and strategy work on through to the design of physical and digital and omni experiences, and then the ability to execute those experiences in scaled format through our architecture, engineering, and construction services. We have 15 offices and over 350 associates. Innovation at scale is our tagline. Dr. Seuss has a quote that says, when something bad happens, you have three choices. You can either let it define you, let it destroy you, or you can let it strengthen you. I think that's a very appropriate way of looking at today's crisis. And hopefully, as a result of today's session, it will enable you to strengthen you. I also think it's interesting that Jeff Bezos used this quote in his latest shareholder letter to Amazon shareholders. It shows you a little bit about what he's thinking of in this crisis and where Amazon's probably going to take things. The crisis has really left us with a lot of lasting memories. There are some images that are going to be with us for a long, long time, and lots of stories that we're going to be telling our grandchildren about how people were hoarding toilet paper during this time, or how we had to wait in specific spaces so we could be 6 feet apart from one another. And then, of course, there's the empty shelves that we rarely see in our stores that represent the behavior that we all saw and that we all heard. And at the same time, there were plenty of isolated inspirational stories where people were helping people, and we, of course, had all those images of the frontline people in our healthcare and in our services settings. We also saw a lot of scrappy innovation. Talk about an industry that was really hurt. It was the restaurant industry, and they had to really get desperate. And out of necessity, we saw a lot of them really pivot. We saw restaurants now getting into selling groceries. So people like Panera and Subway that were offering groceries as part of their offer through delivery or through pickup. And we have to also recognize that a lot of these restaurant chains have done a lot of their business through carry out and through their drive through. In fact, in many fast food settings, it's 70 or 80% of their total volume is done through the drive through. So they already had a whole demand pattern set up with their pickup and drive through. And so it was easy for them to just deliver other items through that same mechanism to make it easy for the customer. But as we move forward, then you look at also people like Leon in the UK that transformed their entire location into a mini grocery, taking advantage of this idea of pickup and drive through. As we look to next, we see that these folks are going to be the same ones that are really competing with grocery for their share of stomach, and offering up that alternative of a pickup world of being able to offer not only prepared foods but also offer ingredient foods at the same time. So an interesting competitive dynamic. Consumers have certainly gotten a heads up on online grocery shopping, and that has been really something that has heated up significantly as a result of COVID-19 specifically. To give you an example, before COVID-19, online only accounted for 3 to 4% of all online groceries or total grocery sales in 2019. So it was a very tiny but growing portion of the overall assortment. And then in March of 2020, we saw 31%, nearly a third of all U.S. households, or 40 million people, order groceries online. And that was double as just 7 months prior to that. And for many of these people, it was the first time that they'd ever ordered online. In fact, for over a quarter of those people, it was the first time. And even those people who are over 60 years old, you don't think of as being the core customer for online ordering of groceries. It was the first time for them, for almost 40% of them. And almost half, 43%, indicated that they were extremely likely or very likely to continue to order online grocery after the crisis passes. Now, that's a pretty healthy percentage, but it's also not even half. So over, or close to 60% are not likely, or are not very likely, if you will, to order online in the future. What we saw was a lot of trial, but we also had plenty of bad experiences. Clearly, the system was not ready for this onslaught. And of course, people are very forgiving. We know that this is a crisis, and there's a lot of forgiveness that's in the system. But at the same time, it wasn't the best experience. Wasn't necessarily our best leg up. So with that, what is the impact on tomorrow's experience? What are we going to take with us as we look to the future of retail and specifically grocery retail? Well, one thing that we have seen is that we're going to continue to see what we call frictionless retail. Consumers are already accustomed to on-demand accessibility, and that's only going to get ratcheted up. Tech enablement and engagement are going to continue to need to be dialed up to alleviate frustrations that consumers have when they're making a purchase. And it's not just getting products, it's also the tools and the information that we have in our relationship with the customer. We already saw that 74% of consumers in 2019 said that they would shop a competitor rather than a store with a long checkout line. Almost three-fourths of consumers said that. And in 2019, we had projected that there was going to be $100 billion in online grocery sales by 2025. Well, certainly that's been accelerated, and we're going to see that market share continue to rise. And we already saw a lot of interest also in buy online and pick up in store. And from 2015 to 2017, we saw a 600% growth in searches for those items. So consumers are really looking for this kind of convenience, this kind of frictionless way of doing their shopping. And we see that going even further. If we look to China, for instance, in Beijing, the group JD has a 24/7 AI-enabled vending machine. So all the consumer really needs to do is to scan their phone over a QR code, and they can access the door and open the door and then pick products up off of the shelf that's inside of this vending machine, and it's automatically charged to their account. Very frictionless, very easy to do, and it doesn't require people, and it doesn't require the contact with those people in an environment. Sam's Club Now and Amazon Go both have cashierless types of shopping engagements where it's all powered by the app, and the app essentially takes you through everything from scanning to then offering information as you're in the store. It's a very expensive technology then for being able to pick up these items and then just be able to, as Amazon says, just walk out. But it is expensive, but at the same time, now it's become quite timely. Before, you really had to hate checking out of a store and avoiding those lines, but it's taken on an entirely different meaning in this post-COVID environment. As we look forward, we're going to have to continue to meet consumers where they are. Consumers are demanding control in the whole experience in online to offline. They're going to have to dictate how, when, and where they interact with brands in all forms. And so if we're going to provide any services to them too, we're going to have to make that easy to do through the technologies that we have available to us. An example of that is a clean beauty retailer called Credo, which utilizes basically these in-store beauty experts that are connected to the consumer in a virtual setting. They can text, they can have an online chat, live video, photos, etc. So there's clienteling that's essentially going on, information and consultation and service that's going on, but all done virtually with the next best thing to being what they call in the store. But yet, with all these technologies, we're really starting to see an oversaturation of that screen time. And we think that what's going to happen is that people are going to really not just look at the technology, but they're going to say, we need to have that tactile, authentic experience and human-led services at the same time. I don't know about you, but I'm kind of sick of Zoom at this point, and and you can only do so much Zoom and not be tired of the technology. Technology can be exhausting, and so people are going to crave experiences as well, not in replacement of all the technology, but they're certainly going to want that to be a complement to the ease that technology can bring to their lives. An example that 20% of consumers say that they would like to see more sit-down restaurants at groceries. So they want a place where they can commune and where they can be with others, but yet attached to their grocery experience. And this has not been really penetrated nearly as much as you might expect in the grocery environment today. Although you will see it in places like Crate and Barrel and Restoration Hardware. 87% of consumers say that they prefer to shop a grocery store in person versus online. So you still see that overwhelming demand for being an in-person experience. And 84% of consumers like being able to choose their own product. And again, they might not have had the best experience when they've ordered online and went to pick up products and found what the shopper ended up picking out for them. And so those experiences are likely going to be disappointing to them, and it's going to keep that percentage of people wanting to make their own choices pretty high. And 64% of consumers are very comfortable with retailers identifying them versus on their phone and offering to receive a personalized experience in exchange for that. Personalization, we think, is a huge opportunity of being able to provide specifically to that consumer the information and guidance that they need that meets their particular shopping patterns and needs. And we're going to go into a little bit more about that as it relates to their diet and food as well. Basically, if you can buy everything online and have it sent to your door or come and pick it up, then that makes it very, very easy. So when they do come into the store and when they do want to have a physical shopping experience, we have to make it worth their while. And it can't just be a procurement experience. It can't be something where you're just going there just to buy product. Examples of the services that we think are going to happen in retail and that are happening in retail are Walmart, for instance, with their Walmart Health initiative, where they invite consumers to come in and receive a full complement of health services. They are a legitimate healthcare provider at this point in time, offering a whole new relationship with consumers to offering them primary care, optometry, dental, labs, and imaging services, all with the kind of pricing that you would expect at a Walmart. This is a whole different relationship that they have with their customer beyond just coming in to buy products. And it's one that is very difficult to replicate online because you now need to have a physical examination of your eyes or of your teeth. And so you have this very, very physical dimension to this that you can't really replicate at Amazon. REI has been very famous for being able to take the experience of their outdoor lifestyle and bring it into classes and clinics and travel experiences and making all of these experiences and services very relevant to the brand and tying it all together along with the products that you would utilize in those settings. And Jo-Ann Fabrics in their most recent prototype has a whole area that they call the Creator Studio. The Creator Studio is a wonderland for these engaged enthusiasts who are very, very avid crafters and are looking for a sense of community and inspiration and ideas around the thing that they love, which is crafting. And this is what we want to stir up in a store. We want to engage those people that are really very excited about our products and services. Clearly, one aspect that has really come out of the COVID crisis is the increased acceleration of the awareness and interest that was already budding with regard to health and wellness. This is going to greatly increase. Health in general is going to be a huge aspect that is on the consumer's mind, whether it's their immunity, whether it's the increasing strength that they need, or their reduction of the vulnerability that they might have to future illnesses. This was an area that was very hot and is going to be increasingly hot. Consumers were already well down the road of what we call self-care, of really taking their health more into their own hands. But they're turning to online resources like WebMD and other places to get information and guidance. And we think that increasingly retailers are going to be able to provide or should provide more guidance and expertise than we have historically. In fact, consumers say that having wellness experts on site ranks as the fifth most important attribute to an in-store grocery experience to consumers. And so this is something that's very important to consumers, and 50% of younger millennials are willing to pay a premium for foods that offer benefits that go beyond basic nutrition, things like antioxidants or gluten-free or high fiber, high protein, or other benefits beyond just your basic nutritional values. And then we also see a huge opportunity for prescription programs. In fact, health systems are now starting to prescribe foods for particular diets, whether it's special diets or whether it's special needs that one might have with their health conditions. This is really providing an opportunity for the increased connection between food and diet and one's overall health. An example of where this can go are things like Byte. Byte is a startup that is really an office environment fridge. Really, it's a smart fridge, and it's got this touch screen that shows up on the door of the fridge that can provide you not only with what the selections are inside of the fridge, but it also provides you with nutritional information, content, all the information that you might need to apply this to your specific dietary needs. And why can't we have this kind of technology in the same refrigerated cases in the store or within the merchandising context of an in-store environment? We also, many grocers have dietitians, but we really haven't taken advantage of those dietitians and of the expertise that we have in the store to really register the message that food is a form of medicine. And dietitians really represent an unutilized part of the expertise that we need to start to offer to our customers as part of our overall information and ecosystem. And taking it even a step further, we see that science meets food in an example like Habit. Habit offers a personalized diet to you based on your individual blood testing data. So you get a blood test, you send it into Habit, and it will tell you the specific kinds of prescription that you should have around your food. This allows for a lot of the momentum that we see around personalization and individual needs. And that is something that very much relates to food, that it's a very personalized and individualized opportunity for many of our customers. But certainly as a result of COVID, we see that there's going to be a lot of attention paid to touchless merchandising, contact of food with people, and especially with strangers that we are not aware of. Those are things that are going to become paramount to consumers as they go into the stores. So we're going to see things like open cases and self-serve cases go by the wayside. We're going to see salad bars and bulk merchandising get a lot of very strong consideration and whether they need to be in the stores, and very likely see those go away as well. Open cases for baked goods and other kinds of open merchandising. This is going to be really something that concerns consumers, as well as even the service areas that have become very synonymous with grocery stores, like deli areas and meat areas that offer a lot of theater. Those are areas that are going to be questioned now by consumers because there's increased contact of that food with somebody's hands. Now, we certainly do our share to take great care with that, but it's something that consumers also say, hey, I just as soon grab the packaged meat, or I just as soon grab the packaged deli items. So we're going to see a lot more of that kind of packaged goods as opposed to the service area goods. It'll be interesting to see whether or not this dovetails over into the produce area, because produce has been one area where consumers have always really wanted to touch and feel the merchandise and make sure that they're getting the best produce that they can. So that'll probably be the last frontier of that. But certainly Aldi has had success with it, and it'll be interesting to see whether we move in that direction for produce as well. But we also think that it's going to be important to balance this non-contact with the physical contact of being able to touch consumers emotionally. We need to be able to connect with consumers in a genuine, caring, and human interest way to make sure that they understand that this is not just cold efficiency and technology that we're offering to them. We need to be able to connect to people and show that genuine humanness to them, as well as to our associates and to the community at large. And that's really going to help us to build the loyalty and trust that we need as we move forward. This is very important to millennials. In fact, 30% of millennials say that they have unfollowed a brand on social media because they felt that the content was inauthentic. So this is a huge area where millennials have really dialed in. Emotionally connected consumers have a much higher lifetime value. 306% higher lifetime value when we look at that data. And 71% of consumers globally said that they would perceive a brand as, if they perceived a brand as putting profit over people, that they would lose trust in that brand forever, according to Edelman. So this is something that we have to be very cognizant of, is how we're expressing our connection and humanness to people. Tesco has really done an interesting thing with making that connection and making the connection to food as well through their Tesco Love Stories. This is an ad campaign and a YouTube video campaign that really makes this connection of food and love. And this is an example that ran around Easter time, which was called Nan's Easter Lamb. And this was a grandmother who was basically making her famous Easter lamb along with her entire family, but doing it in a socially distant way. So they were all doing this through Zoom. And what they were doing is they were preparing it at the exact same time, and she was showing them the techniques and the ways in which she was making that all come alive. This is really tying in the traditions and the family and the food and the love that all these people share, and showing the relationship of food and family, which is so important. But it's also bringing that humanity and the humanness of the connection to people that we need to express in the future. At the same time, there is that cold data aspect that we are also going to need to dial up. And that is certainly being expressed through this next level loyalty that we call it. In the future, loyalty is going to have to be much more than just discounts. Retailers are going to need to differentiate on experiences and really create much more of a membership expectation with their shoppers so that they can engage them through their whole journey, and really dial up the aspects of the data that comes along with that loyalty so that they can make that personalization come alive. Next level loyalty is going to need to go beyond those discounts and really start to offer more creative or unexpected rewards. And 55% of millennials say that they enjoy their brands much more so when they can have those creative or unexpected rewards, either in social media or in stores. And when consumers are asked what their top 5 drivers of loyalty satisfaction are, many of those things are about enjoying participating or making the brand experience better or making it consistent with the brand expectations. These are things that go well beyond just discounts and dollars or cents off. And 59% of loyalty members say that having some sort of exclusive or special offer that isn't available to everyone is something that's important to them. So being able to offer that kind of exclusivity or VIP experience is something that we see as being a great potential. Starbucks does a great job with their loyalty experience, certainly. And one of the things that they do is they gamify the experience. There's so many different exercises of what people go through to get stars in their and they make these dashes and have various experiences where they are really trying to earn their stars, and they will go out of their way to make that happen. And then Sephora brings that VIP experience to light by offering experiences and meet and greets with various celebrities, as well as trips and so forth that they offer as part of their Beauty Insider program. And then, of course, you've got the ultimate membership program, which is the Amazon Prime membership. This is an investment that customers have made in Amazon. And so by paying off this investment, by buying more through Amazon, it really locks them in. The good news that we've had from all of this COVID-19 crisis is that because of the buy online and ordering online, many more customers have now downloaded our apps. And that means that we can do more with the apps, and we get all the data from the apps, but we can also make the apps a much fuller part of our loyalty experience. At the same time as all those events are happening, certainly we are going to see a disruption in our economy. We have essentially shut down our economy across a large swath of our services and goods, and so now we have a huge unemployment situation, which creates a huge uncertainty in the environment with consumer spending. And so naturally during these times, what we see is a caution to spend, and people start to notch into a necessary purchasing environment versus a desirable purchasing environment. And we certainly hope this is temporary, but we definitely think that patronage patterns are going to shift in the short term. And where they're going to shift to generally tends to be toward more value. So that's the value players, which would be indicate that we'd see Aldi and Walmart being beneficiaries of the value movement with regard to the stores that consumers go to. But also we see consumers gravitating more toward private brands, which is different than what they have been doing through the bulk of this crisis, which is going to national brands, which are familiar and comforting to them. But we think certainly over this next few time period here, we're going to see more gravitation to the private brands in the value orientation. But convenience is definitely an area that's going to be dialed up permanently as a result of the COVID-19 crisis. We have expressed a lot of options, and we've given the consumers and are going to continue to give consumers more options than ever for getting their necessities in a fast and convenient way. Convenience currently ranks as the third most important attribute in choosing a grocery store, behind quality and affordability. So this is a very important aspect to consumers. And in fact, they don't just expect it in the store. They also expect it from the products that are sold in the store. So how easy are these products to carry, to store, and to use? These are things that are all important to consumers as far as convenience. And then 87% of all CPG and FMCG stores that opened between 2007 and 2018 were small format. Consumers see small format stores as being more convenient. They offer a flexible format, so they're more convenient to access and more convenient to shop. And so this is something that we see going forward. What we've seen as a result of COVID is that the portfolio of touch points continues to get more and more interesting. Certainly, we have been showing the consumer and really bringing up much more of our buy online, pick up in store options. So those alternatives have come to the forefront with many of these retailers like H-E-B doing an outstanding job of bringing that option to fruition and making it very clear and distinctive to the consumer. But Kroger's also done a very, very interesting thing with this Kroger Express format that they have brought into Walgreens. So they're offering now new touch points that did not exist before and new options for formats that didn't exist to provide their consumers with greater access to their products. And then we go to China again. Alibaba has the Hema format that is their version of Amazon Go, if you will, which is a highly digital shopping experience. So here you have a very strong experience in the store, one that's supported with a lot of automation and fulfillment options. But the consumer now has their digital tools serve as, if you will, a remote control for information and guidance and providing them with all kinds of service elements while they're shopping the store. So it's really a dovetailing into their overall shopping experience. And plus, it doesn't hurt that they have 30-minute delivery from their online, which is quite useful and convenient to customers as well. We've also expressed a huge plethora now of delivery and pickup options. So how customers get the goods has now exploded and is going to continue to explode for the near term. But what we know for sure is that traditional grocery store experiences have permanently changed. We are now looking at all kinds of different choices that are in play for consumers to choose at any point in time on their terms how they want to receive and pick up goods. Kroger, for instance, during this crisis has shut down one of its stores and made it completely a pickup ordering site. So they closed the store shopping to the public, and now that's all you do is go there to pick up merchandise. Meanwhile, in the Netherlands, Picnic is a startup that is really getting quite a bit of investment and quite a bit of interest in the European market, largely because they're offering free delivery to customers through this truck that what they call it a Milkman 2.0 experience. So this is a route that they create, or regular routes that they have with their shoppers, and they make multiple deliveries per week to their customers in those areas for free. But it's a very efficient process because they have a defined area, and they're providing this on a route structure basis. So very, very interesting concept. And then in Australia, you have Woolworths, which has dedicated some of their stores to what they call priority delivery hubs, which serve as really a hybrid between offering a store experience during certain hours where you as the consumer can go in and just shop like you always do, but then it closes down and becomes a dark store so that they can have their shoppers, the professional shoppers, go in and pick from the store and provide their online fulfillment from that dark store during those hours. And then, as a result of this crisis, we've also allowed the beast to really enter the room. Consumer spending on Amazon has grown significantly. The last report is that it's up 35% from the same period last year. And it was already on its way to picking up market share in grocery, and is now the most popular online grocery destination for new shoppers over the past month, with 60% of respondents saying it was their first choice. So they've really opened up the option for Amazon with consumers as a result of this crisis. Now they're offering free grocery delivery to their Prime members, and they're launching ultra fast fresh service in the UK, which is really merging their Amazon Fresh and Prime Now. And borrowing a chart from McKinsey, we see that really this plethora of options is going to continue, and we're going to continue to experiment with a wide variety of how we fulfill the consumer's needs to get them their goods, or to allow them to pick up those goods. In the past, customers were doing us a great favor by providing us with basically all of the labor and the logistics, by picking their own merchandise and then driving it home. But that's changing, of course, because now they want to be able to pick up and have somebody shop for those goods and just pick them up, or have them not only picked up, but then also have them delivered to their home. And so what we know from all of this is that this is creating a logistical dilemma and challenge for many, many grocers. And so they're looking at different ways that they can fulfill these orders and reduce costs in the process of doing that. We believe that one of the next steps is going to be this micro fulfillment center, where grocers are increasingly going to set aside a portion of the store, several thousand square feet, to fast moving SKUs, and allow that to be very efficiently picked, so the consumer, or so that their shoppers don't have to go through the entire store to pick those SKUs and induce all that labor that's associated with that. And that might potentially come at the expense of some of the service areas that we talked about earlier that might be removed from the store. But then down the road, we certainly see that there's going to be more centralization options, and those are being experimented with right now, whether it's automated micro-fulfillment centers, or whether it's even going all the way to an automated warehouse like you would see with Okada and others, where there's picking robots that allow us to have a high degree of automation and reduce the personal needs that are existing in picking merchandise. All of these things are key considerations of logistics and location, and how much expense we want to put into the technology, as well as the spatial challenges that we have as well. A lot of operational challenges that come with all of these options. And ultimately, as we make these investments, there are going to continue to be more and more consumer options about which consumer choices do you make. How many of these brands are you going to continue to, if you will, date around, or are you going to lock into certain providers? When you have Walmart and Amazon providing free delivery, but with a membership charge, if you will, up front, now the consumer has an investment that they've made. So locking into a system, how many providers are you going to give your credit card information to? How many providers are you going to have the app on your phone? These are all decisions that consumers are going to reach, and ultimately they may bring more and more of their loyalty to just one of the providers at the expense of others. And as we look at the deep secret that consumers won't see, but that we as retail analysts and as experts in retailing know, this is not something that many of us in grocery are looking forward to because it bites into our already thin margins. Managing all the desires and the expectations of consumers is going to be very, very challenging without losing our shirt in the process. All of the opportunities that we've covered in this presentation of increased services and formats and new delivery options and pickup options and all these personal experiences, this adds complexity. And it adds the challenges of the location that you offer these in and how close to the consumer you are, the space that it consumes, the labor that it consumes, and the equipment that you need, all of the logistics involved with that. And ultimately, it all boils down to the economic challenges that we have without increasing the prices of goods dramatically in a value-oriented environment. So this is quite the dilemma. So the complexity of activating this portfolio of locations is going to require this seamless digital integration, empowered associates in the right positions, and doing it all while maintaining a clear communication and not being confusing to consumers as we direct them through their journeys. It's quite a confusing and difficult and operationally challenged environment that we're going to be facing. Right now, we're putting Band-Aids on the situation. Everything's an experiment, and we're experimenting with lots of different ways of fulfilling the consumer's needs and the consumer's desires as we move forward. But we're going to have to innovate what is next, and we're going to have to innovate that now. And that begins by really understanding what is it the consumers need the most. What do they prioritize? What do they feel the most passionate about? We need to very rapidly test and learn with the experiments that we're doing. And we're going to have to do that by measuring and modeling all of the economics and the operational components around all of these different options. And then we're going to have to quickly move toward bringing those all together into an integrated, interconnected, digital physical ecosystem that is all tuned together. And ultimately, we believe that whereas today many of those functions are outsourced, we think that increasingly those are going to get internalized. And all of it is going to require thinking of the entire system and thinking of it as an ecosystem and bringing that analysis to one that will allow us to arrive at the right mix and that will work economically. Bottom line is we think that the lasting impact of the COVID-19 crisis is going to be that the cultural and behavioral effects of this pandemic will continue even as restrictions begin to lift, but that successfully emerging from it will be determined by our ability to blend two things: a technology-enabled efficiency that we can pull off economically, but balancing that with the distinct human connection and making sure that we're expressing that to our customers, our associates, and the community. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today.